1.25, for example, it means that it's 1.25 of the secondary currency to buy 1 unit of the base currency. Okay, and that's how all spot forex is in fact quoted. So in the pound against the dollar and the euro against the dollar is the secondary currency. But just to make things a little more difficult, against the Swiss franc and the Japanese yen, the dollar is the base currency. So if the dollar is going up against the Japanese yen, the graph's going up the page. But if the dollar is going up against the pound, the graph is going down the page. And at the retail level, getting that across is quite something. I've been sitting in classes of aspiring traders that couldn't quite get that. After many hours of desperate trying to get that across, I gave up. That's how they're quoted, and it's a fairly linear business. If you buy the pound against the dollar, if you buy cable, and the chart goes up the page, it means that the pound is increased in value over the dollar. If you've bet that way, you make some money. If you've bought the pound, sold the dollar, and the chart goes down the page, when you've lost some money. So there's not like options where you've got all those Greek fellas waving at you. It's a purely linear business.
Why is it such a popular pair for traders?
Because it tends to break and break quite strongly. As I said earlier, if the cable had hair, her hair would be red. She's got a temper on her, and she can move quite strongly one way or the other. In the morning, in the London morning, it's a big part of the daily volume. So quite easy, even at the institutional level, to get filled quite easily without any effort. In the Eastern session, the pound against the dollar is a very small part of the trading, and many people feel that when London opens, that it's got catching up to do. And that's a part of what's called by many people the cable morning trade. Okay.
What factors affect the cable?
Well, at the moment, of course, we've got Brexit and Article 50 being fired off. It rallied last week based on those deficit reduction and construction numbers were good. But the big thing driving it, of course, would be interest rates, and interest rates in the US probably going to go up significantly more and significantly quicker than interest rates here. And that's why the dollar, I feel, has still got some more to go against the pound. I wouldn't be at all surprised that if it got down to 112 to 115 before this is all over. By the way, this move, I don't mean to count waves, but those people that come to the Gbpusd meetings here and in South Africa, I've been rattling on about the pound getting down to 115 for the last 10 years. Because before the crack in 2007, it went up to 210. And it's now made a perfect 5-wave advance, and that 5-wave advance is nearly finished. And by my numbers, which are only right 60% of the time, it's going to get down to 112. And then that'll be the low of the pound for a very long time, and this is quite patriotic in nature, but I think that over the next few years the pound will be the currency of choice.
Fantastic, fingers crossed. How does the role of inflation affect trading with the pound and dollar?
How does inflation? In fact, if inflation starts and interest rates start to move up to counteract that inflation, as interest rates move up, then that should in fact be good for any currency pair. So other thing that's quite useful is purchasing power parity, which is a measure of value of the currency pair. All of that stuff I do not look at a great deal in my own personal trading. Okay, I try and define a trend, and over the last few months on the on the pound against the dollar, on the daily chart, the trend has been down. It's making a series of falling tops. It's below an 89-day moving average. Everything you want to try say is there, and then all I'm trying to do is to wait for it to rally and sell it at a good level, and that's what I did yesterday morning. I sold it at 62%. No, maybe not yesterday morning, but a few days ago at 62% of the level. Last week it made a perfect Wyckoff upthrust, and that was a really good trade, about 25 odd, and that was a 300-point trade. That was nice.
Do you get excited when you see the analysis come into play? That you sometimes you say things with a sound of satisfaction when you see.
Yeah, when my patterns kick in, they're great. They're great. Yeah, and I don't kill myself in that. I trade a 4-hour chart on it mostly. Yesterday on the euro dollar, there was that perfect Wyckoff setup on a 30-minute chart, and yesterday morning was Monday morning, I think. So I didn't have any meetings on, so I had time to trade it, and I sat and watched it most of the day. 3 mornings a week, I probably do that. And I look, I think that the other thing in terms of self-awareness that we talked about, one of the really most important things as the time frame starts to get smaller, in other words, you start to look at half-hour charts, I think one of the most important things that you can say to yourself, do I feel like doing this today? Because there's some days where you're just not there. Something has happened, I don't know, somebody's upset you, or something has happened and you're just not there. So being honest with yourself and saying, I'm just not up to this today, is a very, very important part of that self-awareness.
If you're a beginner trading on currencies, is the pound and dollar a good one to start on?
The pound and dollar has been great over the last months. That's because there's been energy there and it's been moving. But you will get moments where it sits and does nothing. For example, in 1996, the pound against the dollar went across the page. It was like one of those hospital programs when the patient has just died. It went across the page at 1.6 for the whole year. And many big funds who were trend following funds, they took a hiding because they were buying it and selling it, buying it and selling, buying and selling. So I haven't done a Forex course at the retail level for a very long time, but a big part of my Forex trading course was what I call the Forex strength matrix, or the relative strength matrix. Well, I look at the major currency pairs and we'll do our best by putting a matrix up of working out where the energy is. What's the strongest currency? What's the weakest currency? To try and find a trend. So I think that people will be successful if they can find a strong trend in the market. At the moment, over the last little while, 6 months, 9 months, the pound against the dollar has been the place to be. That may not necessarily always be the case. So I think that you need to widen your view and look at the relationship between, let's say, the pound, the euro, the dollar, the Japanese yen, and the Swiss franc. Maybe the Canadian dollar runs with oil, and maybe the Aussie dollar as well, and try and find where the biggest trends are, okay? And I think that if the market's trending strongly on the daily, and you look for an entry on the 4-hour chart, then you're going to find that you get quite lucky at this. If the market is going nowhere and it's confused, running sideways, then you've got to be much more capable to make a buck, okay? So pound against the dollar has been great. I think that it's still got a long way to go, but that may not necessarily always be the case.